Good evening and welcome to the JCC Rockland International Jewish Film Festival. I'm Mickey Leader, founder and chair emeritus for 19 years. Joining me tonight are Avi Maor Marzouk, the director and screenwriter of Our Sons, Sarah First, the co-founder of Kosher Troops, a nonprofit dedicated to sending kosher food and baskets to Jewish American troops all around the world, and Rabbi Ari Abramowitz, the CEO and founder of Nevut, an organization dedicated to IDF Lone Soldier Veterans. I'm going to start with some background before we go into the details. Avi, please tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born? Where did you go to school? When did you know you wanted to make documentaries?
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm 51. I'm married with 2 kids. I born in Ashdod city, 30 kilometers south of Tel Aviv, a small town. And I'm a documentary. I'm a director. I do films. What you want to hear about me?
When did you want to make documentaries? Did you start early when you were still in school?
In the beginning, my dream was to be a writer. Yeah, when I was a teenage, I read many books, and I was saying, "Oh, I want to be a writer." And after that, I had a dream to be a journalist. And after the army, I went to the big trip. After the army, all the Israelis, they go the trip after the army, you know, to India, to South America after 3 years. And when I come back, I start to study communication and business. And I start to work in the newspaper, Tel Aviv Yediot Achronot, Israeli newspaper. And it looked too old to me. And I said, yes, I want the television. I want to be a researcher in the television. And I start to be a researcher in research documentary in the television. And I said, oh, I want to be a director when I saw the other directors make films, and my dreams come true.
That's great. I wanted to also ask you, how did you get started on this particular film? Was it part of the landscape at the time in Israel and you got started quickly? And how hard was it to get a hold of the families of the 3 soldiers to be interviewed?
Yes, this documentary started with research about lone soldier. I was in some research TV program in Israel, other program, and someone tell me there's a big airplane with lots of American Jews coming to the Tzabar, you know, Tzabar, the Tzufim, Tzabar, groups of Israeli, they come to make Aliyah and going to the army. So I went to Natbag, the airport, Ben Gurion, and I saw these young people with eyes, you know, their eyes was shining and their big smile on their face and T-shirts with the IDF. And I said, wow, it's a story. And at this time, it was 2014, the Tzuk Eitan operation began, and there's became the 3 stories about the 3 lone soldiers, Sean Carmeli, Jordan, and Max Steinberg, and about this story. And I say to myself, I have to make a film about it. I have to hear this story and tell this story to other people. And with the family, it was not easy in the beginning because they suspicious and they want their privacy, and it starts slowly. I talk to them little bit, try to get them believe to my way of doing, and that's important documentary. Especially the problem was with the Jordan Ben Simon family. With the American, the Sean Carmeli family, they live here in Israel. And it was the easiest because they lived in Texas and they make Aliyah after Sean died. And with the Steinberg family, it was not easy because it's long distance call. They're from California, I'm from here. So let's talk in the night and let's talk in the day. But there is good communication. And with the Jordan Ben Simon family in French, in Lyon, it was hard because they was very suspicious. They live in France, in small city, Lyon, with a lot of Muslim, and they was very afraid that the people from the Muslim or the other people from the town, from the city, they see them in the television, and they was very afraid. But slowly.
Yeah, that was the time. My husband and I were in France, and there were all those attacks on Charlie, and it was a very frightening
in the
time.
kosher supermarket, and these stories, yes.
Yeah. The last question I was going to ask you in this segment was, were the scenes with the IDF real, or were they reconstructed? And how did you get hold of all of that? Was it people do Facebook, or they had filmed a lot of this stuff and you were able to get it?
You're talking about the short video from the IDF?
You had a bunch of scenes with the soldiers during that exact Golani, when they were being hit. And was that IDF video? Was that the soldiers video? Was it
troops? They have one soldier. He have a camera here during the operation, so it's from the IDF, but not the IDF gave me the material. One of the soldiers, one of friends of the Golani troop, he gave me the material, the videos. Yes,
that was.
If I would ask from the army, I don't think they will give me this.
That was very compelling. Rabbi Ari, let me bring you in, and please tell us where you were born and brought up, and where did you go to school for training for the rabbinate? And as I understand from our earlier discussion quite a while ago, you are a lone soldier yourself and still a commissioned soldier in the IDF. And tell us what compelled you to start your organization to help lone soldiers.
Amazing. So first of all, Mickey, thank you so much for having me on with everyone else. I was actually born in Rockland County, New York, right here. And I actually, I went to a regular school in New York, in Rockland, in Monsey, New York. And from there, I went to, it was in 2008, when I was in my gap year in Israel. That's really where I experienced the rockets that were flying in from Gaza into a town called Sderot, which was right by the border. And that's actually one of the biggest things that propelled me to join the IDF. And I told my mother that when I was going into the army, that when I come back from my army service, one thing I want to do is actually be able to become a rabbi as well. So that was part of my decision going in as an infantry soldier. And I did that in 2009 and 2010. And then after that, I got my rabbinical degree here in Rockland County. And then from there, I actually was starting a program I was running a program in Israel with my wife for IDF soldiers in Israel. And in 2016, we moved back to the United States. And we were literally in touch with thousands of the lone soldiers, which are soldiers without family in Israel. And we saw there was such a tremendous need for so many of them are coming back here. And we saw this question of, in Israel, you have programs for soldiers after the army. And in the United States, you have programs for US veterans, but there was nothing for the 1,000 lone soldiers that join the IDF every year, and over 600 of them are coming back, there was no program services to help them with mental health, with their career, or that community for these lone soldiers. So my wife and I, we founded an organization called Nevut, which means to navigate, which, all the soldiers do. It's important to navigate in the Army, but you also have to navigate life. And so that's where the organization started from. And we have chapters around the United States right now. And it's really special to be able to, live every day of my life with these lone soldiers that were in the Army and, be able to really share their experiences and understand them.
Well, you are really an angel for them to be doing that. Let me see where I left off. When you started and the services, as you had just told us, health and mental health and being able to get them grounded wherever they had landed, what other services did they need? Jobs, schooling, etc. And how have you gone about trying to get it? Do you have sponsors? How can other people help?
Right. So it's, in short, the biggest thing that a soldier needs is a community, somewhere they feel they belong to, somewhere they feel that they could speak to someone, not just they give a phone call to and they just hang up on me, or they're not available after 5. We have so many events that they could just be able to spend time together, know each other, and there at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you find out what challenges they're going through. Hey, I just got a call a few minutes ago from someone that he's going through a really hard time. The job he had fell through right now, and he has his bills to pay. He's not living with his family. He's struggling. And, he was doing great. And, what happens is he was in the Army, he was in special forces, and he's seen tremendous trauma. And now all of a sudden, when he comes out after his service, that PTSD starts kicking in. And, it doesn't kick in right away. It's some things that you don't even see, but they manifest little by little. And they're like little roadblocks along the way, which equal into a much bigger thing. And that's really where we saw that there was such a big need for the mental health, for the career, the career advancement programs. But it all started with, when you have a strong community, you're able to help each other. And to answer your last question, was how we are able to run the organization. It's all through actually small donations. A lot of people come together. People are, they really care about it. They know of a nephew, a niece that was in the Army, a grandchild, a cousin, and they're like, wow, it's amazing what you're doing, and I want to be able to get involved with you, and that's really how we've been really growing the organization, with the support.
And you said that sometimes parents, grandparents, other soldiers let you know, but are you connected with any formal organizations? And is it okay that you're taking care of all of the lone soldiers who are returning? What if they're not very connected to the Jewish community, the Orthodox or conservative? Have you tried to connect with RJCC? Because there are so many opportunities for JCCs to get involved in this. And in terms of reaching out and making a full community, I see that as something that would help you tremendously. There's a whole 700 JCCs across the United States. So, that might be another avenue that people who want to help you connect those lone soldiers. And Sarah, let me bring you in. You're a sponsor of the JCC Rockland International Jewish Film Festival, and you've been it for many years. And as a nonprofit and as an individual, you help watch all the films. You're on the film committee. You help decide on showing these films, and you've been a wonderful participant. But you also have another full-time job besides feeding the entire Rockland County. Because you're such a wonderful cook. You run Kosher Troops. Can you tell us a little bit about when you started it, who helped you, how is it funded, and who provides you with the food you ship everywhere? And also, at that point, you and I knew about lone soldiers together through another film years ago, and you helped me get some lone soldiers to participate in a conversation. So now, hopefully you didn't forget all my questions, but go ahead and answer, please, Sarah. Thank you.
So yeah, so Kosher Troops, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this chat. Kosher Troops is a non-for-profit, and we send care packages to all the Jewish American troops. That being said, when we do have an opportunity, we will do things for lone soldiers. For example, at 2014, when that war was happening, I happened to be taking my daughter to Israel for her gap year, and I took the opportunity that I was in Israel, and Ava and I, who's Ava Hamburger, she's my partner, we came up with the idea of putting together letters from the American troops for the Israeli troops, letters of support. And we put a whole pamphlet together, and I went to different army bases in Israel and brought them to them. So that was like one of our real connections with not just lone soldiers, but with soldiers, in Israel. That being said, which other questions you had? You had, when did Kosher Troops start? It started about 13 years ago. It all started with my daughter's Bat Mitzvah Chesed project. It was not something I ever thought I would do. I never thought I would create any nonprofit. It just basically organically, bubbled up. We started with Mishloach Manot for Purim, and then we just kept on going. And that's how it is, where it is today.
How is it funded, Sarah? And
How is it funded?
who do you get the food from, and who helps you pack the Shabbat packages and the
All the
holiday
packages.
packages?
So this is a nonprofit. It's 100% volunteer. We don't give salaries. Nobody gets any salaries. So everybody's a volunteer, including Ava and I. It is funded through people, like Ari said, people who are interested, people who have family members in the army, and people who want to help, the soldiers and service members. So and all the Jewish kosher food companies are the ones who donate the products that we send. So the Manichevis and the Stripes and the Kerem and all kosher bakeries, throughout every holiday, whatever we need, we have specific companies or bakeries or companies, kosher food companies, that give us those donations. And that's what we do. And one of the relationships that we have through Ari is with the lone soldiers here, is that they come and they help us a lot of times. And they are volunteers for us also. So that's one of the
And you also host so many at Shabbatons that you met a lot of the lone soldiers too, correct? Isn't that how we got?
Well, the lone soldiers that I connected with were actually, believe it or not, people who went to Israel, did the Israeli army, and then came back to America and did the American army too. So I have them both. And yes, so that was that connection that I made that time for you when we had that. I think it was underneath the helmet, that movie. And we had somebody who went to
underneath the helmet was the one that we did. Right. And it was very interesting because one of the young men who had done the IDF service and came back, he could not get to any college covering as a lone soldier in Israel. And he came back and found out he could not get any kind of GI Bill or covering for going to college. And he decided to enlist in the US military and served in the US military so he could then get his college covered. He was an incredible young man. You remember?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, I always look at things that are impossible to think we could possibly get, but I think there ought to be some reciprocity for American Jewish soldiers who went to the IDF, come home and can't get covered, their fishes out of water in both places, to get some sort of reciprocity and getting them educational opportunity. So
well, I think that's where Ari comes in, with his non-for-profit, and he helps them out.
Avi, let me just ask you, what's your next film about?
Yes, so asking about my next documentary. First of
Yes.
all, I want to say, the connection with these young Jewish people, Jewish young people from America, French, all over the world to this land, it's something you can't understand. It's big than everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that a lot of them not staying here in Israel because they educated and we need them. We need them here. Yes. So I hope the Israeli government give them all the education and the facilities to stay here and to be an Israeli citizen. Okay, this is the first thing that's important to say. And when you saw the picture of thousands of Israelis walking to the funeral, support the families, support the boys, you understand there's a big connection, big things between these young soldiers to the Israeli society. This is the first thing. My next documentary, it's not about the Ukraine, it's a sad story, and I want to go to Ukraine to make another thing about the communities, the Jewish communities in Ukraine, because, you know, lots of the Israeli politicians in the Ben Gurion and Golda, I think Golda, she's from Odessa, and you know, many Israeli leaders, they came in the first generation, they came from Ukraine, yeah? So to find the families, to find the connection, it's very interesting. But my next documentary, hold your chairs, it's about Meir Lansky.
Wow.
Another Jewish story.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry, but
Too bad
not
Adelson's
the
dead.
story, not the gangster story. In the early 70s, he came to Israel and he wanted to be an Israeli citizen. And then we kick him off from here. Golda said, no mafia here in Israel. And I want to tell this story from many points of view. This is.
It sounds fascinating. Keep us connected.
My next. Yes.
Okay, Rabbi, next steps for you and connecting to help your lone soldiers.
Yeah, so it's we're actually starting right now with regard to the mental health. It's been such an important piece for these lone soldier veterans that has been really put under the table. No one talks about it because in Israel everyone's living with it. Here in America, you come back, you're in the army yesterday, you're on the Gaza border yesterday, and then today you come back, you're hey, I'm in Columbia University today, and no one understands you. No one understands where you're coming from. And so we actually just started a rapid response team of soldiers that were lone soldier veterans that are getting trained in suicide prevention and psychological first aid to be able to help around the globe, that when someone needs help, they're able to not only reach out to make sure they're good, but be able to get them the right resources immediately. And just one more piece and that's a big piece of the organization, but one more thing that I wanted to mention before that you asked was just about connecting with the JCCs around. That's actually something we do. We connect with the Jewish Family Services, whether it's in Virginia Beach, whether it's in Florida, Texas, California. We're definitely connecting with the JCCs around because they offer such an incredible community out there as well. And this is how we grow, is by the word of mouth. And that's really what's been so special and where our growth keeps on coming from, and being able to just connect everyone together.
That is wonderful. I hope that we'll all get more connected with these boys. I'm sure that they have tremendous amounts of skill sets to help us with, so we can help each other. And Sarah, next steps for Kosher Troops. You and I had a conversation a week and a half ago that this was a particularly hard year to get the commercial kosher food companies to give you in the same amount they had been giving. A lot of them have supply chain problems. So can you expound on that and tell us what else you're doing?
Well, basically we're just hoping, like everybody else, that things will get better. And once they get better, then we can go back to where we were and hope for more. My real visions, especially because we're talking about lone soldiers, I would love to, and that's again, because of the pandemic, we also couldn't do the Shabbatons that we used to do for the last 2 years. But I would love to be able to do Shabbatons with the American service members and the lone soldiers, just because I think that it will be like a great thing for them, for both sides, for the American service members to see, to have a relationship with lone soldiers. And I think for the lone soldiers, it will be a good morale thing for them to see, to have somebody who they could commiserate with here in America, even though they weren't from the same army, the same wars or whatever, they still can, nothing like an army buddy talking to an army buddy, just like those letters that we sent to each other. So I would love to be able to do something like that.
Is West Point able to help you?
West Point is a very strict college. It's very hard for them to go away and whatever. So they, believe it or not, Kosher Troops is considered an official organization that they would let them get out of West Point, for the cadets to come in and for the weekends with us. So we could definitely work with them, and that would be a great thing.
Sarah, can I say one thing?
Yes. Go
The
ahead.
chaplain, the chaplain of West Point,
Right.
his name's Chaplain David Farmer. He was a lone soldier in
Right.
2005 in Israel, in
Right.
Nachal. So now he's
was
in the
just-
U.S. Army.
I was just gonna say that it all depends on the chaplain. Then the chaplain that's there right now would definitely be very interested. Yes.
Maybe there can be some thing that could happen when we're all back in non-COVID situations. One of the chaplains 2 or 3 chaplains ago and I were talking about having the West Point choir come for a Hanukkah concert, and I don't know how many of the IDF boys sing or girls sing, but that might be something to work on together,
Right.
to connect them and have a Shabbaton too. But I like to dream big dreams, even though I'm old and verklempt, but it's always good to try to have communities work together to help each other.
Right.
Anything else anybody wants to offer? Avi, is there something else you want to say? I want to thank everyone for a great conversation and wish everybody a very happy and sweet and wonderful Passover and health, and we should all have no pandemic anymore. Anybody else want to pipe in?
I just wanted to say that you are not the only one that cried each time you saw that movie.
Yeah, I could barely speak. I was choking. So
Me too. So
Yeah.
Avi, you did a great job. You did a great job
Thank you.
on making
Thank
us
you very
feel
much.
what really happened. By the way, I'm
Yes.
Israeli. And I
Hi.
have a
Hi,
lot of
Sarah.
family there. And even if I didn't have family there, my heart is in Israel. And this is what you showed in this movie, how Jews outside of Israel have their hearts in Israel. And at the end of the day, it is Israel Shelanu, and it's our land, and this is where we belong. That's really what it is. Yeah.
thank
The
you all.
amazing thing is that I'm sorry if I have 1 minute, 1 more minute. The amazing thing that the family in the beginning, the American family, when the kids going to the army, they know nothing about Israel.
Right.
The kids come to the army and serve the IDF. There's connection between the families and the Israel, new connection.
Right.
And
Right.
new family meets the Israel, and Steinberg family, I see them every year here in the Independent Day coming to Israel, and they have many friends and big family that support them. So
That's
and
wonderful.
we're waiting for the peace, yeah? I wish there's no war anymore, anywhere.
Yeah.
Amen.
From your mouth to God's ears, no more anywhere more. On that note, let me thank you all for participating and taking time. And Avi, it's late. It's bedtime in Israel. So thank you very much for,
It's Pesach vacation. It's okay.
yes, oh, true. Very, very, very wonderful discussion, and thank you all.